What if I told you that on the second day of Week 2 testing in Bahrain, Lewis Hamilton didn't impress Ferrari with a fast lap, but with something much more dangerous for the rest of the grid? Day 2 of Week 2 in Bahrain began like any other test day, without spotlights, without bombastic headlines, without the immediate pressure of an official result. But inside the Ferrari box, the atmosphere was completely different. They weren't just looking for mileage. They were not working in conventional long runs. That day, the program was focused on something very specific. Really understanding what the new active rear wing was doing when the car entered the aerodynamic transition phase. The first thing Hamilton asked for when taking to the track was braking stability with the wing in partial low resistance mode. Not fully open mode, not full load mode, but intermediate points of rotation. That is where this concept makes the difference compared to a traditional DRS. The system does not work as a simple open/close switch, but as a surface that can travel at different angles, allowing the load to be modulated while the car is still decelerating. And that in Bahrain is critical, because the braking of turn 1, turn 4 or turn 14 punishes any rear imbalance. In the first rounds, the engineers looked for pure correlation. Did the data from the wind tunnel and the simulator match what was happening on the track? The response began to be disturbingly positive. The telemetry showed a clear reduction in straight-line drag, but what was truly striking was that the peak of instability expected when closing the wing before the turning point simply did not appear with the expected violence. The car didn't make that typical rear micro-whiplash when you suddenly release aerodynamics. The transition was progressive, clean, almost surgical. Hamilton then began to push harder at slow corner entries, especially in Sector 1. Instead of losing confidence at the end of the straight, which is what normally happens when you carry less load at the back, the SF-26 maintained a stable platform. This indicated that the joint work between diffuser, exhaust and wing was working as an integrated system, not as isolated pieces. And that's where the real murmur on the wall began. Because the sectoral pattern was revealing higher top speed without a significant penalty in the first support. And when a car doesn't pay the usual price for unloading on a straight line, it means that aerodynamic efficiency is on another level. Hamilton wasn't setting spectacular laps for starters. He was delivering consistent, repeatable laps, with minimal variations between attempts. That is pure gold in a test. Halfway through the session, the team tested more aggressive configurations, expanding the wing's rotation range in a full straight. Here appeared the data that changed the tone of the day, a gain close to 12 km/h without the need to increase energy deployment. It was not a hybrid question. It was pure aerodynamic efficiency. And at a circuit like Sakhir, where long straights punish excessive drag, that equates to several potential tenths per lap. But it wasn't all silent celebration. Each win brought a question. How much structural stress is the whole enduring? How will this affect reliability in real racing conditions with variable wind? What regulatory margin exists before someone protests? Because a system that rotates almost 180 degrees is not something that goes unnoticed in the paddock. Hamilton, for his part, was doing something that surprised the engineers even more. He was anticipating behaviors before they appeared in the data. On radio, it began to describe micro-changes in balance just before the exact point where the telemetry showed slight load variations. This synchrony between sensations and numbers accelerated the internal validation process. They weren't just testing a wing. They were validating a philosophy. At the end of day 2, Ferrari did not simply have good records. It had something more disturbing for its rivals. Mathematical evidence that the concept works in real track conditions, not just in simulation. And when a radical development passes the correlation phase without showing immediate cracks, it stops being an experimental bet and begins to become a real threat. This was the true significance of day 2 of week 2 in Bahrain. Not a media showcase, but the moment when the data confirmed that Ferrari might have found a structural advantage. But like any disruptive advantage in Formula 1, now comes the most difficult part. Sustaining it, protecting it, and taking it to the race without it becoming a major problem. As Ferrari finished analyzing the data from day 2 of week 2 in Bahrain, the internal conversation stopped revolving solely around performance. The focus shifted to another, much more uncomfortable question. What is the real cost of this advantage? The new active rear wing is not simply a moving surface. It is a system that rotates in an extreme range, supporting gigantic aerodynamic loads at more than 300 km/h, with hydraulic actuators integrated into the end plates and without the classic central support that helped distribute forces. That means that all the torsion, all the vibration, and all the structural fatigue falls on much more stress points. In test you can control variables. In the race, no. Hamilton, during the long afternoon runs, began to simulate more realistic conditions: high fuel, tire degradation, aggressive direction changes. The objective was no longer to squeeze top speed, but to check if the aerodynamic transition was still stable when the car was not in its perfect window. And here something key appeared. Consistency was maintained, but the margin of error was narrow. That set off another alert. Such a sophisticated system requires millimeter calibration. If the deployment mapping is not exact, if the wing rotation timing does not perfectly match the braking and turning point, the balance can become unpredictable. And in classification, that can cost a tenth. In the race, it can cost you a spin. Furthermore, there is the political factor. In the paddock, no one ignores an innovation of this caliber. A wing that rotates almost 180 degrees, that radically modifies the rear flow and that generates a clear gain in top speed without obvious penalty, is the type of solution that provokes discreet calls to the FIA. Legality must not only be followed, it must resist interpretation. And Ferrari knows it. There is another element that began to be discussed after the analysis of Day 2, energy management. If the car gains top speed through sheer aerodynamic efficiency, that alters the way the hybrid system is deployed. It can allow you to save more battery for defense, attack, or strategic phases of the race. And that's not just timely performance. It is strategic control of the rhythm. Imagine a typical scenario in Bahrain or similar circuits. A rival tries to approach you on the main straight. Ferrari, thanks to that aerodynamic efficiency, does not need to expend all its energy to defend itself. Hybrid cargo saver. On the next lap, when the rival begins to degrade tires trying to force the overtaking, Ferrari can counterattack with a full deployment. That's the difference between surviving and dominating. But the risk is still there, latent. Because if this system becomes the heart of SF-26 performance, any failure will have a disproportionate impact. An unexpected vibration, an oscillation in a side wind, a slight hydraulic desynchronization, and the advantage can be transformed into vulnerability. And in Formula 1, rivals are quick to identify weak points. There is also the reaction factor. Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, they all analyze every onboard video, every slow-motion image. If they detect a regulatory gray area, they will press. If they detect a replicable solution, they will try to copy it. The time that Ferrari has this exclusive advantage may be limited, and that turns the discovery of Day 2 into a race against time. And here comes the definitive human element, Hamilton. Because beyond the system, what was clear in Bahrain was the symbiosis. The way he anticipated behaviors, how he requested specific adjustments in intermediate wing mapping, how he was able to maintain consistency when the car operated in extreme aerodynamic ranges. That ability not only accelerates development, raises the competitive level of the entire team. What we saw on Day 2 of Week 2 in Bahrain was not a simple aerodynamic experiment nor just another running session within the testing schedule. It was the moment when Ferrari confirmed, with real track data and not just simulations, that the new active rear wing can become the centerpiece of its performance this season. Hamilton did not surprise with a magical lap or an explosive headline. It was surprising because it delivered consistency, perfect correlation between sensations and telemetry, and validated a concept that, on paper, seemed too aggressive to work without consequences. The gain in top speed without a clear penalty in stability is not a minor detail. It is a technical statement. But Formula 1 is never linear. The same innovation that seems like a structural advantage today can become a pressure point tomorrow if reliability is lacking or if regulatory scrutiny intensifies. Ferrari has found performance, yes, but it has also raised the level of internal demand, because now they know the potential is there. And when you know you can be faster, there is no room for excuses. The true meaning of that day in Bahrain is not in the estimated tenths, but in the trust generated within the team. Trust in the concept, confidence in correlation, and above all, confidence in Hamilton's ability to extract critical information in early stages of development. If this foundation holds up under racing pressure, Ferrari will not only have taken a step forward, it will have changed the way rear aerodynamic efficiency is managed in the new regulatory era. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.